Welcome to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, your guide in the race to financial freedom through real estate investing and sound financial practices. This podcast is for anyone interested in learning more about real estate investing, personal finances, and a new take on traditional retirement. Now, here are your hosts, Larry Fierro and Mike Moe.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, your guide on the race to financial freedom through real estate investing and sound financial practices. My name is Mike Moe, one of the hosts of the show, joined today with my partner in crime, Mr. Fierro. What's up, man?
Mike, I'm doing phenomenal today. How about yourself, man?
You know, it's not a bad day here in Minnesota. It's another day in quarantine, but dang it was nice outside, so I'll take that for starters.
Yeah, I'm actually going golfing tomorrow. My son and I are taking the day, and we're going to go golfing. They just opened up some courses around me, and we're going to go see if I remember exactly how to hit the ball.
Heck yeah, man! You're taking that retirement to a full extent, getting out on the links, huh?
I'm telling you, it's going to depend on whether or not I make a fool of myself. Because if I make a fool of myself, that's just I'm going to go out and double down and try and hit the course even more to get good.
There you go.
Get even better.
Heck yeah. So cool.
So, we got an exciting one today, man.
Heck yeah, dude. So last time we talked a lot about, starting businesses, right? So we went investor basics and we talked about like really high level around starting a business and things that you should look out for if you're in the business, I should say, of starting businesses. And now we're going to take it one step deeper and going to talk a little bit about corporate culture, man. A little bit about, I shouldn't say, maybe not corporate culture, because people may think this only applies when you're, starting a massive corporation, but it really doesn't, right? It starts with any business.
Yeah, business culture in general. I can change the title of this before it airs, so that's not a problem. But yeah, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because, truth be told, this is actually the catalyst or the linchpin that prompted my early retirement from my previous job. That was mainly what our managerial differences were. So this is near and dear to my heart, and we're going to talk about how exactly we go about helping you set up a decent business culture.
Yeah, man. And it's no secret nowadays. People don't leave jobs. People leave jobs for very specific reasons. And it's typically related to leadership or culture and, the environment that they're in when they're working. So it's a really, really important thing if you want to attract top talent, but it's also super, super key, as we'll get into, just to make sure that your customers understand your culture, your mission, and what your business is all about. And everybody who works for you, your customers, your suppliers, everybody can be on the same board. And it's clear that everybody understands like what your company is about. So.
Yeah, and a proper mission, a proper culture, if you will, is the difference between, a lifelong customer can be the difference between a lifelong customer and, a one and done kind of customer, because, this is something that a lot of people take very seriously in today's society. You have to have something that's in line with their own personal values. And if you can show them how that is, then you'll have a lifelong customer.
Yeah, for sure, man. It goes back to what we said a lot when, 10 or 12 episodes ago about that vision, right? Starting with that end in mind. We gotta start there and make sure that we're super crystal clear on it. So then we'll get there, right? So if we start with that mission and that statement in mind, then we'll have a better chance to getting there in the end. So, all right, dude, let's hit that warm up.
Let's hit the warm up. Okay, so everybody sitting down. Did you put your seatbelts on? Because this is going to get real. Oh. Mike is mobile now, standing up. I got my
stand-up desk so I can just rock this, and I'm ready to go. No sitting down.
Man, and we're going to start putting the videos out for these too, so if you start doing jumping jacks, everybody will know what's going on.
Dude, I might, man.
You never know. The warm-up. I decided to do mission statement for a warm-up. And what a mission statement is a formal summary of the aims and the values of a company, organization, or individual. Wow.
Yes. That is, yes. Very well said, man. It's like we're talking about, it's what you're all about, what your company stands for, not necessarily the products you sell. That doesn't all the time. That doesn't belong in the mission statement. It's about what you stand for as a company. So,
and that's basically the beginning of the corporate culture. You have to decide on what's important to your company. You have to decide what your values and just basically what type of culture do you want to have in the company. And you have to get that solidified in order for you to be able to get a jump on your mission statement.
Yeah, man. And like you said, like this is so important. I love how like the mission statement and this corporate culture. My favorite part about it is that it drives cohesive decision making, and it really allows your bottommost employee and your topmost employee to be utterly aligned with what they're doing and what they're there to do. So when you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis, you can ladder those up and make sure that they align with that corporate culture and that mission statement. And it really helps your company, whether it be one person or 500 or 10,000, to move as one and to all be working towards a collective good. If you're all aligned to this, this mission statement or this corporate culture, you're going to get there faster versus if you have 10,000 people going in 10,000 directions. You might get there, but it might take you 10 years and cost you a lot more money and a lot more customers than if you're all going in the right spot. So
yeah, you all have to be on the boat rowing in the same direction. That's the best way to get to be successful and make your business a success. That's step one there. So once you figure out what you want your company to be about, it's basically step one is write your mission statement. Get your formal summary of what you're trying to accomplish for your organization. And I actually have an example of a mission statement written right down there. I used American Express, and American Express's mission statement is we work hard every day to make American Express the world's most respected service brand. So that right there tells you everything that you need to know about what the goal of American Express is. That's what they strive for every day. And each and every employee that works for American Express should be embodying this mission statement.
Yeah. And every, like to your point, every decision and every action, everything they do should make sure that it ladders up to this mission statement. So, and when you're writing the mission statement, man, I think a lot of companies per se will kind of go at this the wrong way. They'll start by just throwing a bunch of like flashy words up on the board, and then they'll vote on these words, or they'll try to figure out a way to mash these words together in a sentence that sounds cool. But really, this is something that you're going to be anchoring a ton of activities around and a ton of decision making on. It needs to be something that it obviously sounds good, but aligns with what you're planning to do, aligns with what value you're planning and what you're standing for. So, like American Express said, it's pretty clear, to your point, what they're all about and what their goals are.
Yeah. And each mission statement, and you should take your time writing the mission statement because, and you can change mission statements, but if you get it right the first time, it should be a business long proposition.
Oh, for sure.
And you can always incorporate additions to it. But for the most part, that first mission statement you do can set the entire tone for the life of the business. And
and I'd argue you shouldn't really change a mission statement. You should write it in a way that is going to stand the test of time. So it's not like product specific. It's not like a specific service or anything like that. It's kind of agnostic to any product that you're offering. It's more about what you're here to do as a company. It's kind of goes back to you ever seen that Simon Sinek Start With Why? Talks about Apple and about they don't sell computers. It goes back to those starting with why, and that should be really what your mission statement is about. Not about like what you sell, but like what you're there to do. So, and if you do it that way, you can write it where it stands the test of time, because you don't want to be writing a new mission statement every year. Because let's be honest, if you ever worked in a company with even more than a handful of people, stuff takes a lot of time to get people on board and to get the train moving in the right direction. And if you switch that every year, you're never going to make progress. So you want to have at least a consistent mission statement that you can then ladder up your goals and actions to that.
Now, the parts of a mission statement, Mike, there are three distinct parts of a mission statement. You got the key market, which is the target audience and the employees. I mean, these are the people that you're writing the mission statement for. Your employees, your customers, your audience, just everybody that you're writing this in trying to affect.
Yeah, and I think the mission statement is just as much for the employees as it is the customers, because I think it's like we were talking about earlier. It's a good mission statement. If I'm going to quote Cameron Herold from that book Vivid Vision that we base a lot of our stuff off, it's going to attract the employees who are in line and 100% believe in your mission, and it's going to repel the people that don't. You don't want somebody working for you who's just showing up and collecting a check but doesn't truly believe in the mission, because then, we all know what that's going to be. That's going to be it's going to be not super good quality work, and it's going to get, it's not going to get the best work out of that employee. So you want somebody who actually believes in that mission. And then customers, like you said earlier, man, for customers who truly believe in that mission and are aligned with that, they're going to be customers for life.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one is the contribution. It's the part of the mission statement that says what you're selling, what your product or service is. That's a big part. You have to let people know in your mission statement, what is it that you're trying to offer them? Product, service,
And maybe even what your products are going to do for them. So maybe it's not like product specific, but like what your products are going to allow them to do, what your service is going to actually allow them to do that your competitor won't, or that they won't be able to do without them. It's that value that you're adding to your consumer's life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the last one I've got there is distinction. And that is what makes the product unique, or what sets you apart from everybody else. Why should the customer buy your product versus the competitors down the road? What is it about your stuff that's going to make you hands and feet above whatever anybody else is offering? And you have to put that in your mission statement. Let them know what's going on.
It's that key differentiator, man. It's likely you're not whatever business you start, it's likely that you're not the first to do it and you're not the only one to do it. So you got to tell people why you, and why not, to your point, the person down the street. So you got to make sure you stand out and you clearly articulate, why.
Yeah. And this is where you get to toot your own horn a little bit. You got to let them know, like American Express did, they want to be the most respected service brand in the world. And they have no problem putting it in their mission statement to let you know this is what our goal is. And if we don't reach that standard, you have our permission to call us out on it.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Making it public.
That's it. The business culture, corporate culture, it's something that you want to try and do early on in the company, but it's not something that you can just figure out at the beginning of the company. I mean, you can say, this is how we want to go, but the proper business culture for your business, you really need to have planning for it, and you have to have daily activities that pushes you towards instilling that corporate culture in every employee that you have. You can't just set it and forget it at the beginning of your business. You have to work on it daily. You have to work on it monthly, weekly, yearly, and you have to assess where you are and make sure that you're doing the right things by your culture that you want to instill.
Yeah, man. A lot of businesses, I should say, start do the corporate culture. It's very similar to how the majority of us do goals. They set the goals at the Jan 1 and then revisit them December 31st and wonder why they didn't achieve any of their goals. That's not how you do it. You want to make sure, to your point, you're setting the direction and setting that standard up front. But then there's just like your goals, there's continued progress towards those and check-ins to make sure that you're adhering to those standards. And as soon as it's just a way of life, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's culture. It's not something that you have to teach. It's not something that you have to remind. It just is automatically ingrained with how people are making decisions once you get it to that point. So, but until then, it's consistency, and it's continuing to make sure that it's worked into your daily conversations to really make it to get to that point of a culture.
Yeah, follow-up is definitely key, and that's something that you have to do on a regular basis. So, so the next one, what does the corporate culture do? It adds cohesiveness throughout decision-making at all levels of the company. And that's, to your point earlier, every single level of the company should know through the culture that's been established, through the mission statement, what the proper decision would be to get to the end of making sure that your mission statement is upheld for your customers, for the employees, for everyone.
Yeah, this is why I'm a big fan of frameworks, because your culture, you can be thought of as a framework, a decision-making framework almost, where you can allow people to be creative and solve the problems that you're trying to solve for your customers in their own creative way, but doing it in a way that aligns with the culture, with the corporate culture. So it makes that, to your point, that cohesive decision making from the CEO down to the very, the janitor sweeping the floor. If they're doing it in a way that aligns with the culture, then you're all moving in the same direction. But like I said, it gives them that ability to put that spin on it. You're not being too prescriptive of saying you got to do it this way, because people are creative, and we hire people because we want to. We want to tap that potential that they have in their mind and have them, add to the greater good. And we don't want to be too prescriptive about it, because then we're not going to get that creativity out of them. But having that framework allows them to do it a little bit easier.
And this is something you have to, it's not a passive type activity. You have to actively work on the corporate culture. You have to maintain it, and you have to put people in the right places to make sure that they're maintaining it, you know?
Instilling culture is one of the hardest things to do in business. It's not an easy thing to do because, like we said, a lot of things just end up on like words on a wall and, you know, something that gets put out in a PowerPoint deck once a year, but it's not something that people live and breathe. When you do it right and when you get people moving, it's super powerful, but it's tough. Like it's a lot harder than just, you know, writing a fancy mission statement and then putting it on the shelf for a couple of years.
Well, that's what a corporate culture is. That's why you want to have a corporate culture, you know, what the end goal of the corporate culture is. Now, how we go about implementing that culture? Where do we start?
Let's do it, man. So define your company values and how each position can actively affect that corporate culture. So like, what are the values that you guys stand for, and why is it important why are those values specifically important in the corporate culture?
Yeah. You have to look at it and say, this is the positions that we have per procedure. These are the ones we need to have to operate on a daily basis. And you have to figure out how each position ties into the values of the company, what kind of values you're looking for in the person that's going to be put into that position, and then let them know exactly what your expectations of how they can help maintain the business culture of your company.
You want people to be advocates for it, just like brand advocates. You want people to be that culture advocate in your company as well, who lives and breathes and talks it. So you need to be clear about how they can impact it and how they can kind of live that out.
And the next thing is you create the SOP, the standard operating procedures for the company, and that includes the accurate job descriptions for each level of the company, what each person in the company is expected to do with their job description, and how each one of those jobs ties into the bigger plan for the company. And you just, it's basically an organizational chart is one of the things that we used to do when I was in business school. And, you know, you do an org chart for the company, and then each spot on the organizational chart, you would write down the job description and how it ties in, who they answer to, who they report to, you know, that sort of thing. And it's just basically setting, the SOP is basically setting the entire framework for the company.
Yeah, and I think as a lot of businesses are becoming more decentralized and, you know, less middle management and things like that, it's even more important for things like this to take part. So every person who has a role knows exactly how they're impacting the end goal, right? And knows the expectations. And I think once you get that culture point, once you get this to a living and breathing culture, it's like we were talking about, it's less prescriptive. So it doesn't necessarily have to be prescripted to be in those job descriptions. It automatically comes out, and it's automatically, when those people are writing those job descriptions, it automatically lands its way in there, because that's how ingrained these mission and the values are within this corporate culture.
Yep. You know, and the next thing I've got, one of the main things you really need to do is you have to hire someone that you would consider, and this is a quote unquote people person. And this is someone who is going to be responsible for putting the right people in the right places. They're going to have to look at each job. A lot of times it's HR or an HR person, but this is one step above HR. You have to have somebody that's going to take possession of this job and make sure that they get the right people in the right places. And this is somebody that's going to be a people person. They're going to know what each duty of each position is going to be, and they're going to need to know what values that person has, and then, you know, interview the correct candidates and basically put the right person in the right job. You know, and one of the things that you really want to pay attention to with this people person is, are they good with people? Are they able to read people? Can they determine what their skill set is?
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of things that we're talking about may not apply for like really small businesses or startups, but at least the specifics to like these positions that we're talking about, but the this position may not apply, but the concept still does. You still want to have somebody who has all this accounted for. And then if you're in a small startup, it's just maybe you, but you're still accounting for all of this and you're still building it out for the future, right? So making sure that people person or that leader, that's likely you during the early phases, but making sure that's accounted for as you grow. So as you grow, you're not losing what got you there in the first place within that, with that mission and with those values that you started out with.
Yep. And then this next one ties right into the HR, the people person. Once you figure out what each individual job has to accomplish, what the job description is, you have to hold the employees accountable for carrying out that job. I mean, you have to. This was actually the sticking point, and currently I'm a full-time real estate investor because of this sticking point. You have to hold them accountable for the job description. You can't put somebody into a position who can't handle the position and then change the job description to match the skill level of the person that's in it. Dude,
we're millennials. We don't like accountability.
And what I've said is, I was actually recently at my niece's Marine Corps graduation. I think we talked about it back in January. And I went there and watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millennials graduate from the Marine Corps. And I can guarantee you the Marine Corps did not change the job description to match the skill level of the Marine that was coming out of there. So I know millennials and everybody are capable of getting to this point, and personally, I think you're doing a disservice to the employee if you put them in a position they can't handle and then change the job to match that. Because what that does, and this is the sticking point that I had, is you take stuff off of their plate and put it on the plate of another employee who's doing their job, and they actually have more stuff thrown on top of them. So that's kind of a morale killer when they see this person over here doing half the job for the same amount of money.
Yeah, you want to talk about creating a toxic culture that repels people and causes good talent to leave companies. That's a good way to do it. There's, to your point, there's expectations, and you're doing a disservice, to your point, everybody, including your customers, including the people that you wrote this vision for and this mission for, if you're allowing people to not do it and then reward it by adjusting those expectations, right? So there's definitely a lot to be said on that subject. And I think those businesses may not be around forever, because you'll obviously continue to run into roadblocks, whether it be a bad employee or maybe not a bad employee, employee that's not up to par, or a business problem that you can't solve, or a market adjustment that you can't pivot with. And if your response is just to make it easier, well, then you're probably going to be out of business real quick. The response needs to be accountability, whether it's with yourself, or whether it's your employees, or whether it's with your business, to be able to pivot where the market goes. It's that accountability that needs to be, throughout all those.
Yeah, and I don't like to say, like you said, you don't want to say bad employee. Let's just say, this is what I used to say. I would say an employee who is not in the right position, and we just haven't found that position for him yet. Because everybody, I never found an employee that couldn't fit somewhere in a corporation or in a business. You do have some people that just 100% do not want to work. So, that's you're always going to have that. But one of the things that I used to say, and this is my mantra, is be slow to hire. So take your time finding the right person. And if you do make a mistake, you have to be quick to fire. Because if you get somebody into a position and you don't, like you said, you don't want to have a toxic environment. And that's all you get with modifying this and dumping it on good employees. So
dude, that's a good point. I mean, slow to hire, quick to fire. There's so much time and energy and effort spent within the hiring process. You're dumping tons of resource into training these people and trying to bring them up to speed. And then if it doesn't work out and it's going back to the drawing board, that's a huge drain on time, effort, and money. So I really like the concept of being able to test people out a little bit before you're fully hiring, whether that be a temp job that you can then roll into a full-time job. Then you don't have any strings attached to them, and you can kind of let them go if it's not working out. Because your point, man, most people show up, and most people don't show up to work and think, I'm just going to do a crappy job and I'm going to suck today. Most people want to do good. They're just maybe not in the best fit for their skill, in the best position for their skill set. Right. So, but if you can figure out a way to kind of test these people out and kind of get more of a dry run with them before fully hiring them, I think that can go do wonders. So.
Yeah, 90-day probationary period. That's what I prefer to use. You give them a probationary period, and if they're just not up to par, then you have to bring them in, and you have to let them go. It's a disservice if you keep them there.
There's a couple of ways you can go about it. You can do the contract to hire too. You can do the temp jobs. You can even do like internships and stuff like that. I know a lot of small businesses will do like, honestly, some people will do, and check your local laws, some people will do like non-paid internships. If your company is big enough or you're well known enough where people will come in with the hopes of getting a job eventually. But yeah, there's a lot of ways. But just to your point, if it's not working out, cut your ties early. You don't want to continue to dump resources into something that's not going to work out.
Yeah. The next one is invest time in building your team. So you have to find, you've got a bunch of jobs you need to fill. And like we just said, you take your time, fill the right teams. And then you also want to try, if you've got like a team of people working together, you also want to find a group of people that not only can do the position that they're in, but they also get along with the other coworkers. So, and that's a big part of the corporate culture. You want to kind of promote people to be friends and work together in a harmonious environment. I like harmonious.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Like going back to the toxic work event, you want people who can vibe with the team and to continue to work together for the mission that you set out for them, right? So
Yep. And not only optimizing the hiring process, finding the right people, but once you do find the right people, you have to make sure that you train them properly so they know what your business culture that you're expecting is and what exactly is expected of them, what the mission statement is. And, you have to make sure that you're giving them every opportunity to succeed. You can't just hire somebody, throw them in there with no training, and then get angry with them because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You have to provide that training and let them know what your business culture is, and this is what our expectations are. And, just make sure that they're on the same page.
Yeah, dude, this is kind of one of the, going back to the real estate side of things, this is one of those things that we, you invest a lot of time up front and there's not a ton of return on it, right? It's like underwriting deals and, talking to brokers and sending out mailers and things like that. There's a ton of time and effort that's needed to stand that up that you don't necessarily see a return on, but then after the fact, likely see a large return on that in the future, right? Same thing with hiring. It's such a training. It's such a tedious process. But to your point, it's time well spent because it's going to save you hours and thousands of hours down the road if that employee stays on for the long haul and is a good employee who can contribute to the greater good. So.
Yeah, and training is one of those things that you can standardize. I mean, the position is set, this is what I need you to do. The only thing you really can't standardize is making sure that they understand the culture part of it. I'm expecting you to get along with your coworkers. I'm expecting you to care about the customer service and just whatever your mission statement is, they have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And then once you get these people in the position, you start moving on down the road farther, time-wise, you have to evaluate the culture periodically, make sure that all new hires, you have to go back in and see how they're doing, talk to their bosses, talk to their coworkers, and just make sure that you're getting the desired culture that you want for your company. And then if something is off, you have to figure out what it is, make changes, tweak the process a little bit just to get back to the atmosphere that you're really trying to promote in the company.
Yeah, for sure. And a good litmus test on this is to go to any employee in the company. And depending on what the size of it is, it obviously varies dramatically from company to company, but ask them to tell you what the company's all about, what the company that they work for stands for, and what they value, and see what the response is. Is it in line with the mission statement and the values that you set forth, however many years back or however long ago? It should be. And if it's not, to your point, it's typically not their fault. It's that this culture hasn't been built and isn't ingrained enough from the top down, and you're not making it as big of a priority in the day-to-day that they understand it. So you use that as a litmus test to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And to your point, rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yeah. And another thing I used to do and I'd like to do is use the interview process, because when you get somebody that comes in for a job, you've got some basic skills and you got basic experience that you're looking for. And a lot of times you'll get 15, 20 candidates that are applying for the same job, and they all have similar experiences, similar skills. And what your job is to do is in the interview process, you want to promote the attitude above the skills and the experience, because you can always get somebody's skills and experience. But if you start out with the wrong attitude, that can really go a long way to killing your corporate culture, your business culture. And it's a morale killer. I don't know if if you've ever worked with a toxic person, but you work with somebody, and I've said this before. I said, I could pay that guy to go home, sit on the couch, watch television, and he'd call and complain because nobody was there to grab him a soda. And this is the kind of person that you really have to eliminate from your company as fast as possible, because not only is he going to kill your morale by having to deal with him on a daily basis, or her on a daily basis, but your coworkers, you'll start seeing their attitudes change. So you have to go ahead.
Certain things you can't teach, and that is those things that you can't teach. To your point, the attitude, for one, the problem solving is a really hard one too, as well. But there's certain qualities that you can't teach, and you want to make sure if you can find those that you value and seek those out in the employees, you can teach them the technical side of things. You can teach them the how-tos on the job, but it's those intangibles that you can't really teach that you want to look out for with those employees. And if you find them, you grab onto them and never let them leave the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one here is I like to use awards and recognition in order to promote the company's core values. So this is what your mission statement is doing. And anytime you find somebody, through attendance awards, maybe customer service awards, anytime the employee goes above and beyond to help promote the mission statement, I like to reward them with just an acknowledgement of them doing a fantastic job. And that actually promotes other people. When they see these guys getting the awards or the recognition, then that promotes all around people using their knowledge to get the mission statement out there.
Yeah, and this goes along a lot more than just your employees and the corporate culture. This is just a really good business practice with your vendors, with your other business partners, with your employees, with whoever you are working with. Just showing some gratitude around what people bring to the table every day and around the work that people do. Obviously, when it is in line with, as the company owner, as a CEO that you set forth, is just really beneficial. A lot of people come in and it's demands and asks, and the next sales goal and things like that. But you really got to a lot of times take a standpoint of just pausing it and recognizing people for what they bring to the table, and then go on to the other stuff, right? I mean, I think that goes a long ways.
Yeah, everybody likes to be recognized for going above and beyond. So just do what you can and let them know they did a good job for you, and they'll be encouraged to do that every day.
Heck yeah.
Yep. And another thing is, the business culture can actually help you recruit people. I mean, you've got this corporate culture, and we've all heard of companies that it's just a fantastic place to work for. We have one of the grocery stores.
Marathon podcast.
The Real Estate Marathon podcast is one of them. It's a corporate culture. I mean, we like to have fun. We got stuff that we got to get done, but we enjoy ourselves, and all of our employees seem to be happy as heck. So,
and we all know the mission statement.
Yes, right? We do. Yes, we do. And that's key. That's key. So when you get good corporate culture, good business culture, people actually will, if they're down between you and another company and you have a much better culture, 9 times out of 10, they're going to choose you over the other company just because they want to be associated with that. And one of the questions I put there is there a wait list of talent trying to get a job with your company? Well, I can tell you for us, there is.
Yeah. And everybody's beating down our door to work here, man. The other side of things, man, today's day and age, like that stuff is out there. Like look at any one of the applications that they have out there. Open Door is one of them, I think, that you can go on there and you can get anonymous feedback from employees of the company, and they'll tell you they have a CEO approval rating, things like that. They'll tell you when they don't like you, when you got a bad culture, and that stuff gets out there. So.
Yeah. And, and a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, it's something that management could do something about, but management is generally the cause of it. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And then
top down, man.
It does. And, one of the things that I cannot stress enough is make sure you're holding your employees accountable for their behavior and the job performance. No favoritism in the workplace, and, just prevent all of that stuff, because that will be the quickest way to kill your corporate culture.
Heck yeah, man.
So, and I got to tell you, that's everything I've got on the subject. There's probably about another 2 hours of stuff we could go back in each point and just jump right into it and talk about some pitfalls to avoid, but that may be, for another episode.
Yeah, dude. Should we end this by ripping our vision statement right now for the audience?
Let's have it.
Dude, so provide educational, entertainment, and actionable content for anyone interested in learning more about real estate and personal finance. Our target audience will be newer real estate investors and anyone new to the personal finance community. We provide audience with the tools to create their own roadmap to financial independence through whichever means they desire.
Boom. That's what we're doing. We're talking about any means that you desire. We're trying to give everybody that listens to this the options of achieving your financial independence and financial freedom. And we're not specifically saying just real estate.
Choose your own adventure, man.
That's it. There's so many paths, and we're trying to cover them all, and it's just one of those things that financial independence, going on week number 3 right now. And I'm telling you, tomorrow's Wednesday for me, and this would be yesterday. So yesterday, from the release of this, I took my son out golfing.
Yeah. Every day's a Saturday.
Every day's a Saturday, man. Got my stuff all done today. I worked 18 hours today, got everything taken care of. So now I can take tomorrow off.
You're working harder on retirement, man. You were when you were working full time.
I am, man, but we got to get this content out there because, like you said, on our vision statement, we want to make sure we help all the people that are new to this financial independence game.
Heck yeah. And that's like we were talking about, man. It's a framework. So allow people to do exactly what we were talking about. Choose your own adventure when it comes to this, but give you the tools in your tool belt to get there and to do it how you see fit. So.
Yeah. And one of the things that's important to us is if you know somebody that can really, really benefit from finding out how to get their financial house in order, shoot them over our podcast. We're really here just to try and help people. That's what we care about, and that's what we do.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like you said, you want to be able to share what you know, share the value that you got out of this content, and that where it has allowed you to get to be able to be in the position you are. Like you said, Wednesday, going golfing with your son. How many people can say that? Not a ton of people, unless you're 68 years old, which is the average retirement, or you're 15 and you have a uniquely
summer vacation.
Yeah.
I'm 49 and I can do whatever the heck I want, whenever the heck I want, with whoever the heck I want. And I'd like to help you get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now, call to action, my friend. What are you thinking? You want to have people start looking at, if they're still in the 9-to-5 job, just have them check out the business culture of their own the companies they work for.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, and if you're, do it two-sided. Can you accurately articulate what your company stands for and like what you're all about, and can you riff off, not necessarily word for word that mission statement, but just can you articulate what they stand for? And if you can, well, kudos to your senior leaders, because they obviously did a good job in ingraining the corporate culture. If you're starting a business, if you're in the process of starting a business, or you are a small business, go ask one of your employees. Do they understand what your corporate culture is and what your mission statement is and what your company values and what you're all about? If they can't, maybe it's time to take a look back at that and make sure you're living it and breathing it in your day, and you got it all ingrained throughout your processes.
Yeah. Do you even know if they have a mission statement?
Yeah.
That's a big one too, because some places like I've worked at companies before and I'm like, what's our mission statement? And they just, what?
What's the mission statement?
Right. So, and it's one of those things, just pay attention, see how you can take, if you work for a company that does a good job with the culture, and see what you can glean from their information, and try and figure out how you can implement some similar corporate culture attitudes. And, if they give an award that you like, particularly, start offering that award in your own company, just pay attention and look at the success leaving clues.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's everything I got, man. That's a lot they're going to have to digest. And if anybody has any questions, we're available on Instagram, Facebook, for some follow-up material on this, because, we're not expecting half hour, 45 minutes to answer all your questions. So just reach out and we'll try and do the best we can.
Yeah. Continue that conversation over on social media. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. See you next time.
Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. If you found value in any of the content from this show, consider supporting us in the following ways. Subscribe to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. Leave a rating and review. Continue the conversation with like-minded individuals on social media by heading over to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast Facebook group, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Real Estate Marathon Podcast.